Imagine climbing into an airplane with no engine, no parachute, no way to climb if something goes wrong. Now imagine that airplane was built largely by furniture makers. It sounds like the setup to a joke, but during the Second World War, thousands of Allied soldiers trusted their lives to exactly that machine. It was called the Airspeed Horsa, and despite looking more at home in a woodworking shop than on a battlefield, it helped shape some of the most important operations of the war. Most stories have another side. This one's just a little stranger. I'm Bill, and this is Buffalo Air Park. Let's dive in. A while back, I did a video on the American Waco CG-4A assault glider. Not long afterward, someone left a comment on one of my Instagram reels with just 3 words: Horsa on fire. At first, I had no idea what they were talking about, so I started digging. What I discovered wasn't just another military glider, it was one of the strangest aircraft of World War II, and in many ways, even more unusual than the Waco. To understand why the Horsa existed at all, we have to go back to May of 1940. When German forces attacked a Belgian fortress, they did something almost no one expected. Instead of dropping paratroopers from hundreds of feet in the air, they landed assault gliders silently on top of the fortress itself. Within minutes, one of Europe's strongest fortifications had been neutralized. The lesson wasn't lost on the British. Paratroopers could be scattered over miles by the wind. A glider, however, could place an entire squad exactly where it was needed, with their equipment arriving alongside them. The British War Office quickly issued a requirement for a large assault glider capable of carrying around 30 fully equipped troops, or heavy cargo like a jeep or anti-tank gun. The company that answered the call was Airspeed Limited. Their design became the Airspeed Horsa, named after the legendary Saxon leader Horsa. It featured an impressive 88-foot wingspan and a roomy fuselage designed specifically for airborne assaults. But perhaps the most remarkable feature wasn't its size. It was what it was made from. Britain desperately needed aluminum for fighters and bombers. There simply wasn't enough to go around. So the Horsa was built almost entirely from spruce, birch plywood, and other wood products. Aircraft factories were already working around the clock, so the government turned to an unexpected industry for help: furniture manufacturers. Companies accustomed to building dining room tables, wardrobes, and cabinets suddenly found themselves producing military aircraft. Even the designers admitted they had to redraw many of the engineering plans so they could be built using furniture-making techniques. It's one of those moments in history that almost sounds made up. Yet thousands of Horsas rolled off production lines that had previously built household furniture. Like the American CG-4A, simplicity was part of the design. The Horsa took off using a tricycle landing gear that was simply released after takeoff. Once over the landing zone, the aircraft landed on a large wooden skid underneath the fuselage, allowing it to stop quickly in rough fields. Loading heavy cargo created another interesting challenge. Instead of squeezing vehicles through a door, the entire rear section of the fuselage could be removed. Early versions accomplished this using an explosive cutting cord wrapped around the rear of the fuselage. Yes, they intentionally strapped explosives around a wooden aircraft filled with troops. It worked. Until someone realized enemy gunfire might accidentally trigger the explosives before landing. Later versions wisely switched to mechanical quick-release fittings instead. Even balancing the aircraft on the ground had its own particular procedure. Pilots could actually lift the tail skid by hand. If the nose wheel barely came off the ground, the cargo had been loaded correctly. Elegant, simple, and just a little strange. Flying a Horsa, however, was anything but comfortable. It had no engine, no ability to go around, and no backup plan. General William Westmoreland later described glider pilots as having no motors, no parachutes, and no second chances. That may be one of the most accurate job descriptions ever written. The Horsa had to be towed into the air behind 4-engine bombers like the Halifax or Sterling. Early tow ropes were made from hemp, offering almost no flexibility. Every bump of turbulence was transmitted directly into the glider, violently jerking both aircraft through the sky. Inside, 30 heavily equipped soldiers quickly filled the cockpit with heat and moisture. The windshield often fogged so badly that pilots sometimes opened the side panels and leaned outside just to see where they were going. Combat didn't make life any easier. The Horsa's first major operation, Operation Freshman, ended in tragedy when poor weather caused both gliders to crash in Norway. The survivors were captured and executed. Then came Operation Ladbrokes during the invasion of Sicily. Many gliders were released too early over the Mediterranean Sea. 65 were lost, among with hundreds of Allied troops. Despite these early disasters, the Horsa continued proving its value. Its defending moment came during the opening minutes of D-Day. Just after midnight on June 6, 1944, 6 Horsa gliders silently approached 2 strategic vital bridges over Caen Canal and River Orne. The mission became known as Operation Dead Stick. One glider, flown by Staff Sergeant Jim Walwork, landed just yards from Pegasus Bridge. The landing was so precise and so violent that the aircraft crashed through the German barbed wire before finally stopping. Within minutes, British airborne troops had secured both bridges. Their success prevented German armored units from launching an immediate counterattack against Sword Beach. The entire operation was over almost before many nearby German defenders realized what had happened. Later, Major John Howard transmitted the famous code words, "Ham and jam." The bridges had been captured intact, but the Horsa still carried one hidden weakness. The glue used to bond much of its wooden structure wasn't waterproof. Over time, moisture could become trapped inside the airframe, allowing rot to develop where it couldn't be seen. In December 1944, one training Horsa broke apart in flight after its tail structure failed. 33 men lost their lives. Subsequent inspections revealed hidden decay inside portions of the fleet. It was a sobering reminder that even successful wartime designs often carried unseen risks. After the war, helicopters quickly replaced assault gliders. Britain, facing severe housing shortages and material shortages, sold surplus Horsas for almost nothing. Some became workshops, others became storage sheds. A few were even converted into temporary homes and holiday cottages. An aircraft that had once delivered soldiers into some of history's most dangerous battlefields quietly ended its life holding lawnmowers and garden tools. Today, no complete original Airspeed Horsa survives. Only scattered components and carefully built replicas remind us of this remarkable aircraft. It's easy to celebrate the famous fighters and the bombers of World War II, but the Horsa reminds us that history is often shaped by machines that never received the same recognition. Built by furniture makers, constructed mostly from wood, towed into combat without an engine, and flown by pilots who accepted there would probably be only one landing. That's the kind of courage that's easy to overlook, but it's also the kind that's worth remembering. And that wraps up another tale from aviation's stranger side. Until next time, keep your eyes on the skies.